Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about general information for photosynthesis, so let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Okay, now when we're talking photosynthesis, that's our topic. This is the final leg of our discussion of energy. But this is some big picture ideas of photosynthesis. Man, it is so important to everything on Earth. The cycle between plants and animals cannot be understated. I mean, it may be the single most important cycle or connection that exists. The idea of what plants make, our reliance upon them. It's just super important. But if you want to think just huge big picture, I mean, this is going to be one of the main topics in a variety of ways as we go through this chapter, this unit. It's the idea of the sun sending out these energy waves, so it travels through all the distance between the sun and us, and of course it's sending it out, in a 360 degrees in all directions, and the ones that are aimed at us that arrive here at Earth, the plants, soak that or absorb that, the chlorophyll and the chloroplast absorb that, and from that they are able to take that light energy and convert it to chemical energy, okay, which then gets converted into solid food, a sugar molecule, a glucose molecule. That is absolutely amazing that process is in place. And again, you just can't understate the importance of that whole process. And of course, this whole process, the sugars, I mean, they allow us, we can use those for, whatever the cell needs. The energy derived from that, we went through chapter 7 of breaking down the sugars and all that energy that's released and all the steps that go into place that allow the cells to do everything that it needs to do. But just the little picture of the plant up there, I mean, the overall idea of taking carbon dioxide in, which is the gas that we release, and of course it's out there in the atmosphere in a lot of other ways, car emissions, whatever, and then the idea of releasing oxygen from the plants that we need, taking in some water, and from that the water and the carbon dioxide, and I'll mention this again, but they simply just take those molecules and break them apart and get a big old pile of C's, a big old pile of H's, a big old pile of O's, and then, as we'll see in the Calvin cycle, begin to produce and build that glucose molecule. But simply an amazing topic. Just reminding you of some things that we spoke about in chapter 7 and other previous ones. But we got the little koala bear there. That koala bear is displaying this cycle that we're talking about between plants and animals. The idea of eating plant material, taking in those sugars. The plants would be the autotrophs, making their own energy at the cellular level. The animal, the koala bear, is a heterotroph, has to eat to gain energy. And of course, something we talked way back in chapter 3, macromolecules, the idea that plants store these glucose molecules as starch, and we store them as glycogen. It's essentially the same thing. It's just each of the different types of organism needs a little bit different structure in the sugar storage. All right, so photosynthesis. We're going to spend these videos really breaking down the process, and the one benefit when it comes to the first part of photosynthesis, there's a lot of repeated steps, so that'll make it easier to digest, no pun intended, the material, and to be able to think about what's happening. Again, a lot of repeated steps in the light dependent reaction, the LER, which is what you'll see me refer to a lot in typing, and then I'll say the name out loud. And in the Calvin cycle, one of the benefits from that, it's very similar to the Krebs cycle, and the fact that enzymes are making changes to the molecule and doing the work. And then the last third of the Calvin cycle, just like the Krebs cycle, there is a regeneration of the original molecule that is used to start the process. So just like the Krebs cycle, the last third is used to get it ready for the next cycle. But as I mentioned, it's a series of steps, and we've got all our keywords in play still: endergonic, exergonic, redox reaction, potential energy, kinetic energy, and all these things happening in tandem, as we've talked about many times. The taking in the carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, and of course we know this occurs in plants, and there's some other things. Some bacteria do it, some protists do it. They're autotrophs in general, but there's always a prefix to determine that kind of shows where they get their energy source from. So these would be photo, as in light, photoautotrophs. They could be chemoautotrophs if they get their energy from chemicals, and so on and so on. All right, so the chloroplast is going to be another topic that we look at and really break it down. The chloroplast, as we know from our organelles in chapter 4, is the site of photosynthesis. But unlike the mitochondria, where cellular respiration occurs, mitochondria is just a place where it happens, but the mitochondria isn't really involved in what's going on. The chloroplast is the exact opposite. It is doing a bunch of things to get this done, and a bunch of the components of the chloroplast plays a big part in photosynthesis. Now, most photosynthesis occurs in the leaves. We're going to look at that, the mesophyll layer, in a later video. But any part of the plant that's green, photosynthesis is going to be occurring. And inside of the chloroplast, there are some thylakoids. That's those little discs, like green Mentos kind of thing, or at our house, York ribbon patties are pretty big. Of course, that's green on the inside, but little discs, those are called thylakoids, and we're going to talk about those. They're super important. That's where all the action happens. Inside of that is the chlorophyll and the carotides, that kind of stuff. But the chlorophyll is going to be the main component, because it's going to absorb the energy from the sunlight, which begins that process, photosynthesis. And we're going to really break down in a lot of these videos in a variety of ways that process of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B absorbing the light energy. Well, that's our video for this time. When we come back together, we will continue looking at general information for photosynthesis. So we'll see you then.